Hello and welcome back, everybody, to round 4 of the Eternal Tournament Series Last Chance Qualifier. We are going to be jumping into a game between Kalsir on Rakano Midrange, an interesting build, and GoblinQueen on Shimmering Wump.
Yeah, Rakano midrange is pretty exciting stuff. There's basically only one drop, and it's a Pyro Knight, and we're moving into like Champion of Glory, Oryx Sentry. Basically, no two drops either. Just a Karya at the top, and a lot of really good 3 and 4 and 5 stuff in the middle.
Yeah, and already we're seeing a very slow hands out of both of our players. GoblinQueen, not much interaction until about turn 4 or 5, and that Praxis Displacer really doesn't have much to interact with. It'll just be a 3-2.
It's sort of value. There's certainly the extent to which Queen is going to hit Scouting Party on 6, and if there aren't enough good answers up in Rakano, then that's going to be really tough to beat with the Shimmer Packs in hand. But double Shimmer Pack doesn't really favor GoblinQueen either. It's not really a card that you necessarily want two of. It'll go okay for him.
No, I definitely think he would hope that Shimmer Pack would be another card, probably like a Sandstorm Titan or something he could weave in here in some of the earlier turns. But already we see Kalsir getting in for a little bit of damage. This is interesting too, because this Harsh Rule might just lose GoblinQueen the game. He doesn't have a lot going on in his hand besides these Shimmer Packs.
Yeah, Auric Roothammer was a possible play here on account of the ability to kill the Initiative of the Sands and still get some value without Taller being able to pressure. But we don't see that. Instead, we see the Endurance Workright Oryx Sentry, which is pretty good development overall until Praxis Displacer puts it back.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to see Praxis Displacer just put it back into his hand. We do see, Kalsir building up a little bit of a board for himself. He's got the 3/3 down, so
Silence on the Initiative of the Sand, which I really like against Shimmer Pack decks. It just slows the turn down a bit and gives you a little bit more time to get your own stuff out in response to the scouting party. If you are dealing with a scouting party on 6 on time, that can be really tricky for a lot of decks. Although, of course, this one has the harsh rule in the back, so there's definitely it's not likely to go well for Queen.
ooh, interesting. I like this out of Kalsir. He elects to spend his turn 6 just buffing the Pyro Knight up, and he is going to be able to trade it, albeit for 3 of his units.
Yeah, this is pretty good though, on account of the fact that there are those harsh rules to deal with eventually. He's going to play Scouting Party here, and the only response really is to harsh rules. So if you're getting a trade like that and preventing that much health damage, then that ends up being a very good play for Queen.
It's interesting that you say that, though. With the sort of a Akaria pickup, it's actually possible for Kalsir, and I think he is going to elect to do this, to just clean up a token and then get the Oryx Sentry down here and go ahead and play a little bit of defense. If GoblinQueen picks up a Sigil, though, which he does, this could be a big punish here.
The Shimmer Pack will have to come down to actually get some damage across, but he'll lose the card draw, and the damage isn't going to be enough for lethal, so Harsh Rule will allow him to clear up this board, leaving Queen with just a Shimmer Pack in hand. That's going to be really tricky to deal with.
Notably, he has the Sandstorm Titan, though. That will help pick up the Akaria, at least, and it will provide him a solid unit on the board for the time being, while he hopefully finds something to reload for that Shimmer Pack.
Oh, interesting. He's not going for the block with Valkyrie Enforcer, which suggests that he doesn't want to play Harsh Rule this turn. I'm not sure that there's an option here where he does get the Harsh Rule. Maybe he's pressuring for damage with the Valkyrie Enforcer is what's going on.
Yeah. I was considering maybe he values losing 4 life himself to push an extra 3 here, putting him at 15. He may just be looking to close the game out, and putting his life total down to round increments of 5 helps with Akaria.
Oh, that second Harsh Rule is a pretty big pickup there. With the Harsh Rule on the Shimmer Packs and another one set up for the Sandstorm Titan, he should be able to get a Karya across as long as he gets up to 7 power.
Yeah, Akaria should. Well, the Sandstorm Titan coming down. Yeah, we'll see this Harsh Rule away, and then Akaria will come down, and he's gonna put in some work. Oh wow, a 3/4 Char Chain Flail.
Yeah, that's an interesting stat line for a Charchain Flail. It can go up to 9 damage, which is pretty effective if you're harsh ruling the board, and it looks like he is going to go for the harsh rule. Or it could just be a 4/4 weapon right now for 1, which is certainly not bad.
Yeah, I mean, notably, it will go ahead and clean up the Shimmer Pack, but it will also just go ahead and take care of this sad little Amber Acolyte for free.
At this point, Kalsir has most of the answers that he needs. The only card that really is problematic for him at this point is Scouting Party, since it just generates so many tokens that it's a little bit hard to deal with. But he's up to Ikaria now, and playing Ikaria into Scouting Party still isn't bad.
Oh, and as you say it, Pojo, as you say it, the Scouting Party comes off the top, and now Kalsir is going to have to he's gonna have to find out how to answer this very quickly. Ikaria is presenting a very lethal clock, but
Yeah. He's getting at least some removal going on here. Shimmer Pack will generate 4/4s without any bonuses, so Ikaria will be able to block them one at a time, but he's taking a lot of damage.
wow, this is big here. Here's a question: do you just try and force through the 3 tokens as is to break the flail, and then put the Sandstorm down so that you can block the Ikaria?
It's quite possible. I think the card draw is pretty helpful for him, and yeah, is what GoblinQueen elects to do. Pushing for damage with Shimmer Pack doesn't really seem right because if you run into any more removal, which Kalsir does have, you don't really get to push through for lethal, and Ikaria will eventually just win the game. At this point, he just needs a way to block out Ikaria, and he may have found it in Sandstorm Titan.
Yeah, this is interesting. Like, if he puts Sandstorm down here this turn, this is going to stop the Ikaria from attacking more than likely. And then with the Stormlings ambushed in, it's entirely possible that he may be able to amass some sort of lethal. But
Oh, I was going to say, at this point, it's down to what he draws off the Ikaria, and a second Ikaria is a pretty good include. That's a card that's going to be just impossible to answer for GoblinQueen, and it may spell doom for him.
yeah, we're gonna have to see GoblinQueen at this point, unless I'm mistaken, is gonna have to pick up like a Permafrost. I think. Like, that's basically going to be his only out, and he's going to have to combine the Shimmer Pack trigger on the Ikaria. Oh, and never mind. I apologize. He can't Permafrost. Ikaria has endurance, of course. So
He manages to kill one Ikaria, but there's now a +10/+10 on the stack, which is an enormous weapon or unit. So that's going to be really, really hard to deal with. The Shimmer Pack triggers will give him 8 damage, and then another bit of damage afterwards. But he's still got Auric Sentry and Auric Runehammer in hand, and both those Aurics should be enough to prevent lethal.
well, another trick, since you mentioned it, he could push through the 8 damage here, but actually attacking here would leave him dead due to the Auric Runehammer cleaning up the last Shimmer Pack.
That's true. All right, so no attack here. The Ikaria is a 10/10, and with Auric Runehammer, he's going to be able to get rid of a little bit of that damage, but he's not going to be able to get rid of all of it. So he does elect to trade 2 for 1, and that's another +5/+5 on top of whatever he's putting down. So seems like not a bad idea.
Yeah, he's got a 15/15 on hand, and then he's got the Auric Sentry, which will be able to block the 1 unit, keeping the hammer alive.
The odds are definitely in Kalsir's favor. More scouting parties will help GoblinQueen a little bit, but with the Auric Runehammer still up and Auric Sentry blocking the scouting party, he's not going to get enough card advantage to get himself fully back in this game. He needs to basically just draw scouting party into Shimmer Pack again, or else he's probably not going to be able to pressure out.
Yeah, Kalsir really just taking over the game right now. That second Ikaria was pretty backbreaking.
And Queen drawing nothing but power, which is fairly common, but doesn't really help him here. He wants a bit more gas in his hand, and of course, Kalsir is going to pull into something eventually. Uh, with these Ikaria games, it's really a matter of how soon you pull into the card that you buffed with Ikaria, because Ikaria's buff is absolutely amazing. Oh, that's a big charge in flail.
There it is. All right, so we're going to see a 24/17, or my apologies, 25/17 char chain flail.
Hey, it's exact lethal if you're, at full health.
Yeah, if this were a brand new game, he would be staring down lethal. So sadly, at like 9 HP, he will be going ahead and packing that one in. That was.
Yeah, there's some fun things about Kalsir's deck going on here. The Charchain Flails allow him to run extra weapons into the Ikaria setup, and when you're playing Ikaria, you really want to run into those weapons because they're just the best thing to have those +5/+5 buffs on. So it's really interesting to see that along with the Auric Runehammers and the Sword of Icarias. He just has a much higher percentage chance of getting into those things. In the sideboard, taking out some Auric Runehammers as well as the Charchain Flails.
Ah, interesting. Yeah, he's sideboarding. If he's going to take those out, I assume it's because his sideboard has these Oni Ronins and Crown Watch Paladins, and he's going to go ahead and convert his deck back to more of a regular Rakano style and more of the the aggro variant instead of the mid range variant he's currently playing.
Transforming sideboards is always a bold move. We'll see if it works out well. He is going for the more aggressive strategy, and we'll see if that pays off for him. There's still the problem of Scouting Party, but he has those harsh rules, and if he can draw the harsh rules in time with Scouting Party and Shimmer Packs, that's his best chance at winning the second round and cleaning up the games.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what else comes in. Right now, he has not cut the Furnace Mages. He did actually bring them in from the sideboard, so I'm assuming that they might be hanging around here for the obelisks and the permafrost. Though I do like them a lot less than that ruin. Like since we brought it up the other game, like I think ruin would be a little bit nicer than the Furnace Mages, but they'll certainly do the job.
Yeah, it's a useful card. Like just in general, being able to get rid of the obelisks is really nice because the thing you're really worried about in Shimmerpack decks is the combo. A lot of the individual pieces don't really matter quite as much. You have a lot of tokens that aren't really pressuring you on board until Xenon Obelisk comes down or Shimmerpack comes down. So if you could at least deal with Xenon Obelisk, that really lowers the chances of Shimmerpack to come across and beat for all of that damage.
Yeah. Notably, yeah, we saw a couple of the Oryx come out. Man, and all the chart chain flails. Interesting. I mean, it makes sense. Like the chart chain flails are much weaker against tokens.
Yeah, there's a
They're
lot of
obviously lacking overwhelm.
we still see Oni Ronins, which is something new. Basically, a card that's not necessarily good against tokens, but does allow you to clear out more tokens since they're very likely to block with them. If you can keep those tokens to a minimum, then you can also keep the chance of lethal to a minimum. But this is an interesting tactic. It appears that he's going to try to rush down the Shimmer Pack deck this time around, as opposed to play the long game for value. That could be the right call. It's not every day that Scouting Party fails to get you the value that you need, and Akaria just ends up sealing up the game. But it does happen. You know, it's decent odds either way. That game was maybe a bit of a coin toss to see who could get better cards.
Yeah, once those Akarias came down, though, man, they just closed that game out. That was amazing. Let's
Oh
go to
well,
sorry. Real
no,
quick,
go
let's
ahead.
go over to GoblinQueen before we run out of time, since we never know if this could be the last game. Let's check out his sideboard really quick. For the Shimmering Wump sideboard, we have 3 Backlashes, 4 Lightning Storms, 2 Lightning Strikes, 3 Wisdom of the Elders, 2 Rain of Frogs, and a Crystallize.
Yeah, pretty exciting amount of stuff there. The lightning strikes don't really help much against Dakari. There's not really a lot here that helps against Dakari except for Rain of Frogs, which is just a lovely card if you're looking for a 7 drop that's almost always going to be in your opponent's hand. I don't remember how many. Is it 4 Akarias or just 2 in the Rakano mid range deck?
He
2.
yeah, I think he just has 2, and he did leave both of them in. He considered cutting them, but he left them in. What do you think about bringing in the lightning strikes though for some of these like weapons and the smaller creatures?
You can definitely use it to get rid of the weapons, which is pretty nice, but we already know that, of course, the weapons are being cycled out, and there's not that many targets for Lightning Strike anymore. I think that it is pretty reasonable to put them in, and you should be able to get at least a 1-for-1 trade, which should be good enough. Looks like we're going into game 2.
Alrighty, let's hop back into game 2. Kalsir on the play here. We're going to see an interesting opening hand. A lot of buffing spells, but no units to be found.
Yeah, which is interesting because Kelsier was previously cutting out or keeping in a bunch of his 1 drops and a bunch of his 2 drops. Not getting them here might be really bad for him.
Yeah, this might. Ooh, and missing the power drop. This is going to be painful. GoblinQueen, on the other hand, he's got the double obelisks and a few units to go along with it. A lot of power going around on his side.
Yeah, those obelisks are a pretty strong deal, and there's no Ruin or Furnace Mage in Kalsir's hand, so they will make pretty much all of his tokens into serious threats that have to be dealt with.
Yeah, we This
Kalsir
is
stuck at 2 power here.
Yeah, it looks like GoblinQueen very easily might just get a quick game off here. We should have see a discard here out of Kalsir unless I'm mistaken. Or no, my
Nope,
apologies. He
he's
gets
at
hold one
9
more.
cards. Yep. So at 10, he should have to discard. We've got a torch here just to keep the board a little bit cleaner. No Xenon Obelisk from GoblinQueen, which is interesting. I'm not really sure why you wouldn't be playing those. I guess if you're planning on playing Sandstorm Titan instead.
I guess if you're getting the Sandstorm Titan down on curve, we'll see an obelisk come out here, I'm sure. Do see a strike on the side there coming in from the sideboard like that.
Yep, Pyro Knight trading with but with the Finest Hour, it's of course not a trade. So the Pyro Knight lives, and Kalsir is not really going to be able to pump that anytime soon. Being stuck at 2 power is really just a death sentence here. He'll be able to double Finest Hour to get rid of the Sandstorm Titan, but that's about the only bit of extra that he can contribute here.
Yeah, and he will at least be able to take care of the Sandstorm Titan, though I believe, the unit's going to get traded on the way back here now with the second obelisk.
Yep, exactly 7 health, so that's not the most even of trades. And of course, if GoblinQueen pulls into any of his big combo stuff, he's already got Shimmer Pack, but that's not really that important at this point in time. It'll help against any like big units like Akaria.
Yeah, it's interesting here. If Kalsir finds power, it is possible for him to like pull this game back, but it has to be very quick. Like he needs to immediately find his power and utilize what little answers he has.
I'm not
And
sure that he can. With the Xenon Obelisk at 8, his only 4 power spell is Rise to the Challenge, which is just too slow. And of course, Praxis Displacer putting the Valkyrie Enforcer back. It looks like he's just facing down lethal and has to concede.
yeah, he needed to be at 5 power, like just losing early the power. He needed those harsh rules to be effective there. And I forgot that the obelisk was going to tick up to 8. And having 2 obelisks in play when you tick it up to 8, having +2/+2 on everything, just kind of runs over. So
Yeah.
we'll see them re-examine sideboards. I have a feeling Kalsir may revisit his sideboard plan here.
Yeah, if you're a mid-range deck, you can't really keep those 2 power hands, and he mulliganed into that one, so that was pretty unfortunate. But we'll see if he can recover.
Yeah, unfortunately on his part, we're gonna see what he wants to do with some of his other cards here. We can get back to GoblinQueen's sideboard a little bit there. We didn't see too much coming in from it, but notably we did see the Lightning Strike coming in, so he at least brought in one of the two. So I have to imagine the second one came as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he wants to keep up with this plan of having the early drops, but he might continue with it on account of the fact that he was just very heavily power screwed. He's only got 1 Crown Watch Paladin in the list at the moment, all 4 Oni Ronins, so he's definitely trying for some early pressure. I don't know. I'm not sure that I like this decision. I think that Oni Ronins and Pyro Knights just don't do as well against that early token strategy. And while the Finest Hours certainly help, it's going to be hard for him to get across the value that he wants from those cards.
Yeah, it's interesting that he decided in this matchup essentially to convert his deck back to more of like a traditional Rakano style. Like we don't see all the units here, but you have Oni Ronin, Pyro Knight, which is a unit a lot of Rakano decks don't even play coming in here.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate because he definitely like moved into a bunch of good 1 and 2 drops and then ended up with a hand that would have been fine with a bunch of 1 and 2 drops, and he just didn't have anything. So it was just very strange. He didn't have enough gas. It felt like he was still a Rakano mid range deck when he had actually moved quite a bit more aggro and just didn't draw anything.
Yeah. This is a little bit better of a hand, like double inspired to Champion of Glory.
Yeah, this is a really strong hand for a mid-range deck, I think. He's got lots of power. He'll be able to get up to most of his like big threats, and he's also going to be able to play Champion of Glory on 2. Spires are always helpful, and looks like he's got a Pyro Knight to sweeten the pot.
Yeah, picking up the Pyro Knight on the first draw is going to be sweet, and we're actually going to see GoblinQueen go ahead and spend his second turn not playing Talir's favor, but just locking it down.
Yep. There's a second Permafrost, but of course the Endurance from Champion of Glory makes it untargetable. From here, it looks like there's going to be a lot of different options for Kalsir. We've got the Pyro Knights and the Inspires. He could also cast Privilege of Rank to just secure some mid-range, but we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I think I like his plan here. I like double inspire, draw a couple cards, get some pluses. There you go. Pick the 4/3 Pyro Knight.
4/3
Uh,
Pyro Knight's a pretty solid deal.
we're gonna see
Probably
the
gonna be
lightning strike
first
catch this.
permafrost.
Yeah, we see the lightning strike go ahead and catch the champion of glory, and unfortunately, yeah, if he does decide to go with the high Pyro Knight, the 4/3 is gonna get caught here on the permafrost, which is a little sad for him, but it's not
Yeah,
too bad.
it's not the worst. He's definitely securing power this time around, so he should be able to get to Ikaria without any problems. The question is whether or not he draws his gas now. He got a harsh rule. That's a really important card for his list.
Yeah, I'm wondering if he's going to hold the Pyro Knight here, and I think he did decide that was a smarter play. Maybe holding the Pyro Knight here for the harsh rule.
Yeah, it's possible. He does end up playing it down eventually. He's got 6 power to boost the Pyro Knight at some point, but we're just gonna have to see how much pressure GoblinQueen can put down, and at what point the harsh rule is going to get forced. You usually want a harsh rule in response to a scouting party or in response to a shimmer pack if you can live through the shimmer pack. Um, Here, he might have to use the harsh rule early, and at that point, if Queen pulls into a scouting party, that's going to be tricky.
Yeah, this is why I was almost in favor of holding that Pyro Knight back. That way, he had like an extra drop the turn after. That way, he could do something like Pyro Knight. Now he picked up the Champion of Glory. Because I have to imagine Kalsir, unless he picks up something real sweet here, he's just gonna have to fire this harsh rule off. Like you can't allow yourself to have the 6/7 Titan just keep beating you over and over.
Yeah, this turn it's going to be spent on like actually buffing the Pyro Knight and getting some blockers up, and this actually prevents Praxis Displacer from effectively bouncing it back. So like Queen can't really play Praxis Displacer unless he's going to not target anything, because any of the 3 targets here for Kalsir, the Pyro Knight gets to refresh its ultimate, and the 2 permafrosted units are of course not coming back.
Yeah, an interesting interaction people kind of forget about with Praxis Displacer. It probably won't come up here. Actually, it should come up here, maybe next turn even. You can bounce your own unit, so he may bounce his Talir's Favored to put it back in his hand to grab his 8th power for his Xenon Obelisk.
Yeah, that's a pretty effective way to do it. He might also just bounce one of these units, the 3/3, to make a more effective pressure game. It's really a matter of whether or not he wants to push. And he ended up not doing either, which I think is maybe a little bit questionable. It's hard to say if this is going to be a good play for him. Spending the turn buffing that other Pyro Knight for no particular reason, just holding on.
Okay, and here is what Kalsir's been waiting for. Now we're finally going to see the harsh rule actually come down.
Yep. It was effectively baited. Kalsir was very, very patient with this harsh rule, and now he definitely has to use it. So we will see what happens. Of course, you go all in, you do the gut check, just see if your opponent is willing to block this stuff. But of course, GoblinQueen is, and there comes the harsh rule.
Yep, and we're gonna have a slight reset on the board. Although even this Praxis Displacer just coming down as a is that a 5/4 is like deadly enough to.
Even better than that, I think he's got 2 Xenon Obelisks, so it's like a 7/6. Right.
But they're not turned online yet because he lost. He's still missing a power, and he lost the power off the initiative.
Right, he lost his initiates, so yeah. Well, that'll still be like a. It's still got potential to be a 7/6, so that would be pretty difficult.
Interesting. So Kalsir at least having the answers here. He has the Vanquish, and now considering if he wants to fire off the Obliterate, I'm pretty in favor of that. Keeping the power down. He's still keeping Goblin 2 power off of getting both obelisks online.
Yeah, you don't really want to get hit by a 5/5 initiate. At this point, he kind of needs those Furnace Mages or Ruins. Double Xenon Obelisk is just making every card into a really generous threat. And Haller's Favor, of course, just securing another power. If he secures 8, then Taller becomes basically almost a Sandstorm Titan. That's a rough deal.
Oh, we're gonna see if GoblinQueen gets baited here. If he plays the scouting party, he's not gonna have the mana to hold up backlash, and this harsh rule is actually, oh man, he's gonna get so much value off this harsh rule that was otherwise dead to this backlash.
Yeah, it's a bit unfortunate. On the one hand, you really want to pressure there because eventually Ikaria is going to come down and wreck your day. On the other hand, you have to watch out for those harsh rules. So holding on for that next power would have been maybe pretty decent. You never saw the Praxis Displacer for the extra time, so
Yeah, never had time to fire it off, unfortunately. We see Goblin holding up 2 backlashes now, though, and it looks like he's just gonna get there on the back of this 4/4 currently.
yeah,
Might
with
even
2 backlashes in hand, that's very very hard to deal with. Like all of these units require some sort of fast spell response, and it looks like that's just going to be game for Kalsir.
Yeah, GoblinQueen will just go ahead and wrap this up by ambushing in the Wasp since he has the 3 obelisks in play. And
Make it into Carnosaurs,
yeah, slightly bigger than Carnosaurs, little 7/7s floating around. Like the 1/1 Temple Scribe is a 7/7. The 7/7 Flying Scorpion Wasps, just little babies,
A little bit of extra damage. Yeah, you really want that attachment destruction, and if you don't have it, it is real hard to deal with the tokens.
Yeah, that
All
was
right.
GoblinQueen. To note there, both players were 1 and 2 going into that round. So GoblinQueen keeping himself at 2-2, keeping his tournament life alive right there with that very close game towards the end. Was able to close it out. We've said it before many, many times on the stream, but Xenon Obelisk, very powerful card. Very
Yeah.
powerful.
It can be nuts, and you definitely have to have the answers to it. This time around, Kalsir didn't, and unfortunately, with that second game, power screw just didn't work out very well for him.
Yeah, it just didn't come down. Didn't come down. Unfortunately, the second game was basically not played, and then the third game, he just had too much power. Like I think he was holding like 12 or 13 power by the end. The privilege obviously seeked a little bit of it out, but just never drawing into some of his threats, which was something that we kind of mentioned earlier, like with pulling out. Even if he had been drawing into his threats, like the Pyro Knights and the Oni Ronins, the Crown Watch Paladins, not doing nearly as much as some of the units or even the Auric Rune Hammers.
Yeah, I think I really respected the weapon strategy and the mid range strategy, and I hope that he gets some good games in with that, and that we see more of these Rakano mid rangey type decks in the future. There's definitely a lot of support for Rakano mid range in like the current card list. I don't think anyone's found a really good list yet, but there have been a lot of like variants like Ikaria Blue and other things where you have control into Ikaria and just a lot of different things into Ikaria. So like figuring out an actual mid range list will be good contribution. So hopefully
Yeah,
we'll see something along those lines.
Yeah, instead of just the Ikaria dump list. But very well played game out of both of our players there. Goblin ended up taking that one 2-1 to keep himself alive in the tournament. Now he moves on to 2-2. We have one